It is set to become the most famous mugshot in history. Donald Trump, there he is, has become the first president in US history to have a mugshot taken as he surrendered in a Georgia prison on charges of plotting to overturn the state's 2020 election results. Always defiant, Trump described the arrest as a travesty of justice. He then posted that clip on Twitter, which is his first post since the old insurrection took place, if you can call it that, really. Is this actually going to do him good for the next presidential election? Joining me now is the former chief of staff to Joe Biden. It's Susan Platt. Susan, thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I must say, it doesn't normally get this highbrow 3 till 6 here on GB News. But firstly, do you think that mugshot is going to play well for Trump?
Thanks for having me. I think we also have to remember that not only has he been indicted more times than he's been impeached, but he's been impeached more times than he's been inaugurated. And he's been inaugurated more times than he won the popular vote in the U.S. So I think this is something the Republicans really have to deal with this. They have to make a decision, the Republican Party. I think the other night, 13 million people watched the debate the other night. Excuse my phone for ringing.
Well, that's all right. I was just going to say, Susan, that might be Trump on the phone now. I mean, it's all right because it's all right because it looks like the dog behind you's gone to answer it anyway. So that's all right.
But I got to tell you, he gave us the most intimidating look he possibly could, right? And now he's saying no surrender, never surrender. Well, he did surrender. It cannot be a good feeling to be arrested and be facing with 91 felony counts in 4 different trials. And if you listen to, I'm not a lawyer, but if you listen to all the lawyers, they say it is highly unlikely, given the volume of counts, that they will all be dismissed. So I guess the question then comes, when will the trials happen? Because he'll delay. And will there be a plea? And I think that's what we need to think about.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, underpinning all of this is a popular election, a public vote, right? And he's smashing it in the Republican opinion polls at the minute.
That's right.
And so there is a chance, and let's be honest, Joe Biden is not the most popular president that you've ever had. I think many people do question whether or not he might be fit for a second term, and I think that's fair enough for, the obvious...
I think he's got a lot done, so you can't question that.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's really him doing it necessarily, though. He does seem a bit doddery.
I don't think that's the case, but look, if you watched the debate the other night, which I did, it's really kind of serious to think about. There were 8 people on the stage, but why are they challenging Donald Trump when 6 of the 8 say they'd vote for him if he was convicted? I think they really have to take a look at it. But no matter what you will say about, yes, Joe Biden is going to be 82 years old, but you cannot argue with his accomplishments. You just cannot argue with that.
Well, what
and the
are
last time that he won, of course, he beat Donald Trump by quite a few votes, and Donald Trump has never won the popular vote. So I do think that that's putting out about never surrender, which he did surrender, this mugshot, will ultimately come back and bite him in the butt.
Do you think that this is a very, very high-stakes game, though? Let's just say he gets off with everything and he comes back and he seemed to have smashed the system and that it was all a bit rigged against him. I mean, I can kind of see, Susan, where he's coming from, because he was hounded from day one. He didn't help himself at times, but he was hounded from day one. There was all this talk of the Russia hoax and all of that. And then you do look at the Biden family, and I think Hunter's got off a bit lightly, hasn't he? And Joe Biden, what are some of the previous connections there, potentially, financially, with things like Ukraine? And I just wonder whether or not there's a lot of stuff playing in Trump's favour here.
I don't think there's anything playing in Trump's favor. This man has skirted the laws, as you might, if you read all the newspapers for all the years, skirted the laws for so many years and had a blatant disregard for all of them. Now the roosters are coming home. And I think the odds of beating 91 felony counts is slim to none. That's why I say the question is, will he end up playing? And at some point, I do believe when the Republicans have to do their own kind of soul searching and say, do they really want to vote and nominate a guy who's been convicted? of crimes, and big crimes in this country, serious crimes, not minor crimes at all. The most serious you can have in a democracy.
OK. I mean, they might not have to, because Vivek might do rather well. Our very own Nigel Farage interviewed Vivek Ramaswamy last night, I think it was, actually. And I watched quite a bit of the debate as well. I did think he performed well. I've got to be honest with you, I didn't think it was an incredibly impressive field, but he performed rather well. He has said he will pardon Trump on day one in the office.
Yep.
Do you think we need to be ready for Vivek?
I think Vivek was really a substitute for Donald Trump. Donald Trump may not have personally been on this stage, but Vivek was. And why would someone vote for Vivek when they can vote for the real thing?
Yeah. He's the polar opposite of Joe Biden, though, isn't he? I know you're obviously a fan of Joe Biden, and that's great. A lot of people are. And crucially, enough people, unless you listen to Donald Trump, enough people at the last election were, and then he got elected. So, you know, there is that side of things. But Vivek is young, he's energetic, he wants to get things done. He doesn't fall downstairs and stumble over his words all the time, and you wonder who's pulling his strings, you know. Do you really, deep down, do you really think it's the best thing for American democracy to have another 4 years of Joe Biden shuffling around?
I think my old boss has done one hell of a great job for this country and for the world on keeping NATO together, on passing so much legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act, getting people working again, getting manufacturing back, lowering costs of medicine and healthcare for people. He's done a whole lot. And I think, you know, you have to vote with who you've got and who's presented to you.
Yeah.
You can't just vacuum say, well, maybe I'll do so-and-so. They have to run and they have to be nominated and they have to be elected. And I think with what we've got, what we're facing, Joe Biden's pretty darn good.
All right, Susan, thank you very, very much. There's Susan Platt, there's the former Chief of Staff to Joe Biden.